The information provided in this video regarding Infiniti's upcoming vehicle lineup, including technical specifications, projected release dates, and estimated pricing, is for educational and entertainment purposes only. Automotive manufacturing is subject to supply chain fluctuations, engineering adjustments, and corporate strategy shifts that can alter final production models. This content does not constitute financial, investment, or consumer advice. Viewers are strongly encouraged to conduct their own independent research, consult with authorized Infiniti retailers, and perform thorough due diligence before making any automotive purchase or financial commitment. The Japanese luxury segment is currently facing a midlife crisis that could either lead to a spectacular rebirth or a permanent slide into irrelevance. And at the center of this storm is a brand that many critics had written off entirely. For years, Infiniti was the quiet neighbor in the luxury space, overshadowed by the German titans and its own compatriot, Lexus. But the data coming out of their recent product summits suggests a radical, high-stakes pivot that is about to catch the US market completely off guard. We are talking about a total abandonment of the safe, conservative styling that defined the last decade and a move toward a high-output, electrified future that looks nothing like the Q50S or QX60S currently sitting on dealer lots. If you think Infiniti is just Nissan in a fancy suit, you are operating on data that is officially obsolete. The brand is currently executing a multi-billion-dollar Vision QE and Vision QC strategy designed to fundamentally disrupt the premium EV and internal combustion markets in North America by 2027. For the average US driver, the luxury car market has become a repetitive cycle of overpriced European maintenance schedules or minimalist electric vehicles that lack soul and physical controls. You are likely feeling the frustration of a market where premium has become synonymous with fragile or generic. This deep dive solves that problem by stripping away the marketing fluff and looking at the cold, hard engineering and design changes coming to the Infiniti stable. We are going to break down why the shift to the artistry in motion design language isn't just about aesthetics, but about aerodynamic efficiency that aims to challenge the range leaders in the EV space. We will examine the specific technical hurdles Infiniti has overcome with their new powertrain architectures and how they plan to integrate advanced ProPilot Assist technologies to compete with Tesla's Autopilot and GM's Super Cruise. By the end of this masterclass, you will understand exactly where the value lies in the new lineup, which models are worth the wait, and which historical trends suggest these new platforms will actually hold their value in a volatile resale market. Consider the current state of the US luxury SUV market. Historically, the QX80 has been a reliable, if somewhat dated, behemoth. However, the move to the all-new 3.5-liter twin-turbocharged V6 marks a massive departure from the naturally aspirated V8 engines that American enthusiasts have clung to for decades. While some might see the loss of two cylinders as a downgrade, the engineering data suggests a massive jump in torque and towing capacity, alongside a significant improvement in thermal efficiency. We have seen similar historical trends with the Ford Raptor and the Toyota Sequoia, where the transition to high-output forced induction actually provided a more responsive driving experience for the heavy-duty luxury consumer. Infiniti is betting their entire US reputation on the idea that they can deliver V8 power with V6 efficiency, and the technical specifications of the VR35 DDTT engine suggest they might actually pull it off. Furthermore, we need to address the elephant in the room: the invisible luxury movement. In the mid-2010s, luxury was defined by chrome and loud branding. Today, the US consumer is shifting toward quiet luxury, focused on interior materials like open-pore wood, semi-aniline leather, and integrated haptic feedback systems. Infiniti's new Kabuka interior philosophy is a direct response to this. It moves away from the cluttered dual-screen setups of the past and toward a seamless ultra-wide display architecture that mimics the Horizon line. This isn't just a design choice. It is a psychological play to reduce driver cognitive load during long American commutes. When you spend 2 hours a day in Los Angeles or Atlanta traffic, the potential outcome of a well-designed cabin is a measurable reduction in driver fatigue, a metric Infiniti is prioritizing over raw 0 to 60 times. We are also seeing a massive investment in the Atsugi testing grounds in Japan, specifically tailored to US road conditions. Case studies of previous Infiniti launches showed that early models often struggled with the high-speed vibrations and varied pavement types found on American interstates. The new models, particularly the upcoming EV sedan, are being built on a dedicated platform that utilizes advanced frequency sensing dampers and acoustic glass that was previously reserved for ultra-high-end marques like Bentley or Rolls-Royce. This level of granular attention to NVH, noise, vibration, and harshness is a clear indicator that Infiniti is no longer content being a value luxury brand. They are aiming for the pinnacle segment. The US driver today is also more concerned with total cost of ownership than ever before. While we do not provide financial advice, historical trends in the automotive sector show that brands which invest heavily in integrated technology suites and robust powertrain warranties tend to see higher consumer loyalty. Infiniti is rumored to be restructuring their service packages to include more comprehensive connected car features, allowing for over-the-air updates that can actually improve vehicle performance and range over time, much like a smartphone. This shifts the car from a depreciating hardware asset to a dynamic software platform. In this series, we are going to look at the specific 2025 and 2026 release windows, the projected horsepower figures that are aimed at unseating the BMW M-Line and Audi S-Line models, and the magic carpet ride quality that Infiniti claims will redefine the crossover segment. We will explore the path to electrification, which isn't just a jump into the deep end, but a calculated bridge using advanced hybrid systems that allow for the long-distance cruising capability that US drivers demand, without the range anxiety currently plaguing the rural American infrastructure. This is about more than just new cars. It is about the survival of a Japanese icon, and whether its new roadmap aligns with your needs as a modern driver in an ever-changing economic landscape. Stay tuned as we begin the first major pillar of this deep dive: the death of the V8 and the rise of the high-output twin-turbo era. The transition from the rumble of a heavy displacement V8 to the whistle of a precision twin-turbo V6 is not just a change in part numbers. It is a fundamental shift in how American luxury vehicles interact with the road. For over a decade, the 5.6-liter V8 was the soul of the Infiniti flagship, providing a linear, thirsty, and predictable power delivery that US drivers equated with status. But as we move through 2026, the data indicates that displacement is no longer the king of the mountain. The new 3.5-liter twin-turbocharged V6, internally designated as the VR35D DTT, is the result of years of engineering refinement originally seen in the high-performance Q50 Red Sport 400. However, this isn't just a carryover engine. To move a 3-row, 3-ton SUV, engineers had to rethink the entire torque curve. Imagine if you are a driver named David, living in a high-elevation city like Denver. In the old V8 days, your engine would struggle as the air thinned out, gasping for oxygen and losing roughly 3% of its power for every 1,000 feet of gain. By the time you hit the Eisenhower Tunnel, your 400 horsepower flagship felt more like a standard crossover. In 2026, the twin-turbocharged architecture changes that math. Because the turbochargers can adjust the amount of air they force into the combustion chamber regardless of ambient pressure, David keeps nearly all of his 450 horsepower and 516 pound-feet of torque. This is a critical distinction for the US market, where geographic diversity requires a powertrain that performs as well in the Florida humidity as it does in the thin air of the Rockies. Historical trends in the automotive industry show that when a brand moves from 8 cylinders to 6, the primary concern for consumers is grunt, that immediate push at the stoplight. Infiniti addressed this by increasing the torque output by over 100 pound-feet compared to the outgoing V8. To put that in perspective, the 2026 QX80 now offers 56 more pound-feet of torque than a standard 6.2-liter V8 found in a Cadillac Escalade. This is a massive engineering win. More torque at lower revolutions per minute means the vehicle feels lighter and more responsive in stop-and-go traffic in cities like Atlanta or Chicago. You aren't waiting for a massive rotating mass to build momentum. The twin turbos spool up almost instantly, providing a surge of power that historical data suggests is much more usable for the daily American commute. But power is nothing without a way to manage it, and that is where the new 9-speed automatic transmission comes into play. The previous 7-speed unit was a workhorse, but it often hunted for gears when under load and lacked the spread to optimize fuel economy at 80 miles per hour on the interstate. The 9-speed system provides a wider gear ratio spread, allowing for a much lower first gear for towing and a significantly taller top gear for cruising. Case studies on transmission efficiency show that having those extra 2 cogs allows the engine to stay in its most efficient power band for a higher percentage of the drive time. This translates to a projected 18 miles per gallon combined rating. While that might not sound revolutionary to an economy car driver, in the world of full-size luxury SUVs, a 20% improvement in fuel efficiency, while simultaneously increasing power, is a significant technological feat. Step by step, let's look at how this powertrain handles a high-stakes US scenario. Towing an 8,500-pound boat. In the past, towing near the limit meant listening to a V8 scream at 5,000 RPMs just to maintain speed on a grade. With the 2026 setup, the 9-speed transmission can hold a mid-range gear, allowing the turbos to provide the necessary torque without the frantic engine noise. Infiniti has also integrated a new trailer blind spot warning system that actually accounts for the length of your trailer. When you signal to change lanes on a busy highway, the sensors aren't just looking at your rear bumper. They are calculating the clearance needed for the entire 10,000-pound setup behind you. This is the kind of practical, engineering-led luxury that solves real-world problems for American families who use these vehicles as both a daily driver and a weekend escape vessel. Thermal management is another area where the 2026 models show deep-dive engineering. High-output turbocharged engines generate immense heat, especially when idling in the summer heat of Phoenix or Las Vegas. To combat this, Infiniti utilized active grille shutters and a revised cooling loop that prioritizes the turbocharger's longevity. Historical trends with early turbocharged luxury cars often saw premature wear due to heat soak, but by using electric water pumps that continue to circulate coolant even after the engine is turned off, Infiniti is aiming to maximize the potential outcome of long-term reliability. This is a crucial point for the second-hand market, which often dictates the initial lease value of these high-end machines. Inside the engine bay, the move to an overhead camshaft design over the traditional pushrod setup used by some American rivals allows for more precise valve timing. This means the engine can breathe better at high speeds, providing a smoother delivery of power that feels more European in its execution. When you combine this with the dynamic digital suspension, which monitors road surfaces thousands of times per second, the vehicle begins to feel less like a truck and more like a high-end sedan. It is a dual-personality vehicle. It has the raw muscle to haul a trailer through a muddy campsite, but the refinement to sit silently in a valet line at a 5-star hotel. Let's talk about the specific feedback from early 2026 test groups. US drivers noted that the brake-by-wire system provides a much more consistent pedal feel, regardless of whether the vehicle is empty or fully loaded with 7 passengers and luggage. In a traditional vacuum-assisted setup, the braking performance can change based on engine load, but the 2026 digital architecture ensures that if you need to stop suddenly on a rain-slicked highway in Seattle, the system delivers maximum pressure instantaneously. This is a safety integration that often goes unmentioned in brochures, but is vital when managing a vehicle of this size. As we look at the competitive landscape, the 2026 Infiniti models are positioned as the technical alternative to the brute force American SUVs and the ultra-expensive German options. They are carving out a niche where smart power is the primary selling point. You are no longer buying a vehicle that relies on the size of its pistons, but on the intelligence of its software and the efficiency of its forced induction. This leads us to a critical question about the interior experience. If the engine is this quiet and the power is this effortless, how does the brand manage the sensory experience inside the cabin? We've analyzed the heart of the machine, but the true revolution might not be under the hood at all. It might be in the way the car actually feels your presence before you even touch the door handle. There is a technology coming to the 2026 line that uses infrared sensors to track the body temperature of your passengers in real time, adjusting the climate control before they even realize they are getting too warm. But how does this system handle a crowded car on a 100-degree day in Texas? And is it actually more effective than a traditional AC vent? As we prepare to step inside the cabin for the next part of this masterclass, we have to look at the monolith display system and why Infiniti decided to ditch physical buttons for a haptic interface that claims to be more intuitive than a smartphone. Is this a leap forward, or a frustrated driver's worst nightmare? The answer lies in the biometric integration and the Klipsch audio partnership that is designed to turn the cabin into a rolling concert hall. We are just getting started with this deep dive into the 2026 Infiniti Shift. Stepping into the cabin of the 2026 Infiniti QX80 is a departure from the traditional cockpit design that has dominated the luxury SUV segment for the last 20 years. Infiniti has moved away from the cluttered, button-heavy dashboard in favor of what they call the monolith display system. This isn't just a marketing term, it is a structural change to the driver's interface. Imagine two 14.3-inch high-definition screens fused together to create a seamless, ultra-wide horizon line that stretches across the dashboard. This design is rooted in the Japanese philosophy of ma, which emphasizes the beauty in empty space and the flow between elements. From a technical standpoint, these screens utilize a high-contrast ratio that ensures visibility even in the direct, harsh sunlight of a midday drive in the Arizona desert. The software backbone of this system is Google built-in. For US drivers, this is a massive shift in usability. Historical trends in automotive infotainment often involved clunky, proprietary systems that felt 10 years behind the latest smartphone. By integrating Google Maps, Google Assistant, and the Google Play Store directly into the vehicle's architecture, Infiniti has removed the friction of the modern commute. You are no longer navigating through 5 submenus to find a coffee shop. You are using natural language processing to say, "Hey Google, find the nearest charging station with a 4-star rating." The system also supports wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto as standard, but the native Google integration is so deep that it can monitor your vehicle's state of charge or fuel level and suggest stops along your route automatically. Now let's look at a scenario involving a driver named Sarah, a mother of 3 living in Houston, Texas, in the summer of 2026. The temperature outside is a staggering 103 degrees, and the humidity is thick. In a traditional luxury SUV, Sarah would have to manually blast the AC for her kids in the second row, often leading to a cabin that is freezing in the front and still warm in the back. This is where Infiniti's segment-first biometric cooling technology changes the game. Located in the headliner is an infrared sensor that scans the body temperature of second-row passengers in real time. The system doesn't just measure the air temperature. It sees that Sarah's children are overheating. Without Sarah having to touch a single button, the system redirects focused, high-velocity airflow to the second row to bring their body temperatures down rapidly. Once the sensors detect that the passengers have reached an optimal thermal state, the system automatically softens the airflow to maintain comfort. This is a step-by-step automation of hospitality, known in Japan as omotenashi, and it represents a potential outcome where the vehicle actively cares for its occupants. The sensory experience continues with the partnership between Infiniti and Klipsch. For the first time in a large luxury SUV, the 2026 models feature a Klipsch reference Premier audio system. We are talking about 24 high-performance speakers, including titanium tweeters and a massive 8-inch tri-power subwoofer, all driven by a 1,200-watt, 24-channel amplifier. But the real engineering marvel here is the individual audio functionality. Integrated into the front-row headrests are dedicated speakers that allow the driver to hear navigation prompts or take a private phone call without interrupting the music playing for the rest of the cabin. Imagine you are on a family road trip. Your kids are watching a movie in the back, your spouse is sleeping in the passenger seat, and you need to follow complex turn-by-turn directions through a busy city. The headrest speakers deliver those instructions directly to your ears with laser precision, ensuring the rest of the cabin remains a sanctuary of silence or music. Deep diving into the materials, Infiniti has utilized the principle of Miyabi, which involves the layering of soft, premium textures. The seats are draped in semi-aniline leather featuring a unique dot quilting pattern. This isn't just about aesthetics. Semi-aniline leather is treated with a light pigment layer that maintains the natural breathability and soft feel of the hide, while providing the durability needed for a family vehicle. The trim inserts are made of authentic open-pore ash wood, but with a twist. Inspired by the koto, a traditional Japanese string instrument, the wood features delicate metal inlays that follow the natural grain. This creates a tactile experience where you can actually feel the texture of the wood and the precision of the metalwork. Case studies on interior design suggest that these tactile touchpoints are what define long-term satisfaction in the premium segment. Lighting also plays a critical role in the 2026 interior experience. The cabin features a 64-color personalized ambient lighting system, but it isn't just a strip of LEDs under the dash. Infiniti has designed what they call a forest of light effect. The lighting is diffused through various textures in the doors and dashboard, creating a rhythmic, organic glow that mimics the way light filters through trees. You can choose from presets like spring, summer, autumn, or winter, each designed to evoke a specific emotional response. Historical trends show that customizable lighting can significantly improve a driver's mood during nighttime operation, and Infiniti has maximized this by ensuring the light doesn't create glare on the monolith screens. Furthermore, the 2026 QX80 addresses the common complaint of third-row accessibility and comfort. Many SUVs in this class treat the third row as an afterthought, but Infiniti has increased the legroom and integrated power folding and reclining functions for all 3 rows. Even the third row passengers have access to USB-C charging ports and dedicated climate vents. The cargo space behind the third row has also seen a 30% increase compared to previous generations, a technical adjustment that allows a family of 6 to carry a full set of luggage without needing a roof rack. This is achieved through a more efficient packaging of the rear suspension and the move to a more compact twin-turbo powertrain. The integration of haptic feedback is another area where Infiniti is pushing the envelope. Instead of traditional physical buttons for the climate control, the center console features a dedicated touchscreen with haptic actuators. When you press a button on the glass, the system sends a micro vibration back to your finger, mimicking the feel of a mechanical switch. This allows you to operate the controls by feel without taking your eyes off the road. It is a bridge between the digital future and the tactile past, solving the distraction problem that has plagued many recent luxury interior designs. We have explored how the 2026 Infiniti protects your comfort and your senses, but how does it protect your peace of mind when the road gets difficult? The interior technology is only half of the story. There is a sophisticated array of cameras and sensors that allow you to see through the very metal of the car itself. As we move into the next part of this masterclass, we are going to look at the invisible hood technology and the front wide view system that gives you a 180-degree perspective of what is lurking around blind corners. We will also break down the ProPilot Assist 2.1 system, which is Infiniti's latest answer to hands-free highway driving. How does it handle the chaotic merges of a New Jersey turnpike? And can it truly compete with the established leaders in autonomous assistance? The tech under the skin is about to get even more intense. When we talk about high-intensity technology in a 3-ton luxury vehicle, the conversation usually starts with what you can see on the dashboard. But the real magic of the 2026 Infiniti lineup lies in what the vehicle allows you to see through. For decades, the sheer size of full-size SUVs like the QX80 created a massive physical blind spot directly in front of the vehicle. This forced drivers to rely on guesswork when pulling into tight parking spaces or navigating over rugged terrain. Infiniti has effectively solved this with a piece of engineering called Invisible Hood View. This system is a masterclass in image processing and sensor fusion. It isn't just a camera mounted on the grille. It is a sophisticated software stack that takes real-time footage from the front cameras and uses the vehicle's speed and steering angle data to project a virtual image of what is currently underneath the front of the car. Imagine a driver named Mark navigating a narrow multi-level parking garage in downtown Chicago in late 2026. Mark is driving a vehicle that is over 17 feet long and nearly 7 feet wide. In a traditional SUV, the high hood line would make it nearly impossible to see a concrete pylon or a low-sitting sports car parked in the adjacent spot. With Invisible Hood View activated on the dual 14.3-inch monolith displays, the hood of the car effectively disappears on the screen. Mark can see exactly where his front tires are positioned relative to the curb. He can see the yellow lines of the parking stall as if he were standing on the pavement looking down. This is achieved by taking the buffer of video recorded as the car moves forward and overlaying it with current steering geometry, creating a seamless top-down perspective that moves in perfect synchronization with the vehicle. Building on this is the front wide view system. Most standard front-facing cameras offer a 60 or 90-degree field of vision, which is useful for basic parking but useless for seeing around corners. The 2026 Infiniti system utilizes a specialized wide-angle lens to provide a near 180-degree perspective. Think about the potential outcomes when you are pulling out of a narrow alleyway between 2 tall buildings or trying to edge out from behind a line of oversized delivery vans parked on a busy city street. Usually you would have to nose out into traffic, risking a collision with a cyclist or a passing car you simply cannot see. Front wide view allows the driver to see traffic coming from both the left and right while the nose of the car is still safely tucked away. The system even integrates with the navigation data. If you pre-register a specific blind intersection you frequent on your commute, the car can automatically trigger the 180-degree view the moment you arrive at those coordinates. When you combine these views with the ultra-wide view functionality, the 2026 models utilize the full width of the dashboard's digital real estate. It creates a panoramic, cinematic view of your surroundings that reduces the mental friction of maneuvering a large vehicle. Case studies of early user testing suggest that this visual transparency significantly lowers the stress levels of drivers who are otherwise intimidated by the physical dimensions of a flagship SUV. It transforms the vehicle from a heavy, obstructive metal box into a high-tech observation deck. But the tech stack doesn't stop at low-speed maneuvering. As we move on to the open highways of the United States, the 2026 Infiniti introduces its most ambitious driver assistance suite to date, ProPilot Assist 2.1. To understand why this matters, we have to look at the historical trends of autonomous driving. Most systems are hands-on, meaning they provide steering support but require a constant physical connection between the driver and the wheel. ProPilot 2.1 is a hands-off, eyes-on system designed specifically for the vast network of compatible divided highways in North America. This is not a self-driving car in the legal sense. You are still the pilot in command, but it is a sophisticated co-pilot that manages the most fatiguing parts of a long-distance journey. Step by step, here is how ProPilot Assist 2.1 operates in a real-world US scenario. Imagine Mark is now on a 5-hour drive from New Jersey to Washington, D.C. Once he enters a compatible highway, a blue icon appears on the 14.3-inch display, signaling that the system is ready. He presses the steering wheel-mounted button, and the vehicle takes over the primary tasks of lane centering and speed management. Using high-definition 3D map data that is accurate down to the centimeter, the car doesn't just see the lane lines with its cameras. It knows the curvature of the road and the upcoming grade changes before they even appear in the headlights. This allows for much smoother braking and acceleration compared to older radar-based cruise control systems. The 2.1 update also introduces lane change assist and overtaking functionality. If Mark approaches a slower-moving truck, the system can monitor the adjacent lanes using its 360-degree sensor suite. If the way is clear, the car will notify Mark that a lane change is possible. With a simple confirmation, the vehicle autonomously executes the steering maneuver, passes the slower vehicle, and merges back into the original lane once a safe distance is established. This is a level of high-speed automation that was previously reserved for niche luxury brands, now brought into the mainstream Infiniti flagship. However, we must address the content safety and operational constraints. ProPilot 2.1 relies on a driver monitoring camera located on the steering column. If Mark looks away from the road to check his phone or turns his head for too long to talk to a passenger, the system will provide escalating alerts, visual, then audible, and finally a sharp tug on the seatbelt. If he remains unresponsive, the car is programmed to safely slow down within its lane, activate the hazard lights, and bring the vehicle to a complete stop. Furthermore, historical trends show that these systems can struggle in heavy rain, snow, or construction zones where lane markings are obscured. Infiniti's approach in 2026 is transparent. The system is a tool to reduce fatigue on well-marked interstates, not a replacement for human judgment. There is also the matter of the subscription model. Much like modern software, the advanced ProPilot 2.1 features often require an active Nissan Connect or Infiniti InTouch services subscription after the initial trial period. This covers the constant updates to the high-definition maps and the real-time traffic data required for the system to function at its peak. For the 2026 driver, this shifts the vehicle from a one-time purchase into an ongoing service relationship, a trend we are seeing across the entire premium automotive sector. As we look at the integration of these camera and driving systems, it becomes clear that Infiniti is betting on predictive intelligence. The car isn't just reacting to what is happening. It is anticipating the driver's needs, whether that is cooling the cabin based on body temperature or identifying a blind spot hazard before the driver even turns their head. This leads to a fascinating evolution in the vehicle's exterior. If the car is this smart, does it still need to look like a traditional SUV? We have mastered the eyes and the brain of the 2026 lineup, but the body is where the most radical visual changes are happening. In the next part of this deep dive, we are going to look at the artistry in motion exterior design language. We will break down why those flush door handles aren't just for style, how the digital piano key lighting signature actually communicates with other drivers, and the aerodynamic secrets that allow a vehicle this large to cut through the air with the efficiency of a much smaller sedan. What does it mean for a car to have a soulful design in a world of generic EVs? This video provides an excellent visual overview of how these camera systems, particularly the invisible hood and front wide view, function in real time to assist drivers. Watch this 2026 Infiniti QX80 technology overview turn abstract engineering into practical, everyday driving benefits. Infiniti QX80 safety and driver assistance features invisible hood view YouTube, Infiniti 1.7K views, The visual identity of a vehicle is often the first point of contact between the brand and the driver, but for the 2026 Infiniti lineup, the exterior is much more than just a metal shell. It is a calculated execution of a new design language called artistry in motion. This philosophy is a reaction to the sea of generic, jelly bean-shaped electric vehicles and oversized, aggressive SUVs that have saturated the US market. Infiniti is attempting to find a middle ground, a concept they call powerful elegance. This starts at the very front of the vehicle with a reimagined double-arch grille. If you look closely at the mesh of the 2026 QX80 or the upcoming Vision QE sedan, you will see it is not a simple honeycomb pattern. It was inspired by the upright, intersecting shapes of a Japanese bamboo forest. The engineering team used complex 3D modeling to create a sense of depth and movement within the grille itself, ensuring that as you walk around the car, the way light reflects off the inner mesh changes, creating a shimmering effect that feels organic rather than industrial. This organic approach is balanced by a high-tech lighting strategy, known as the digital piano key signature. In the past, automotive lighting was purely functional. It existed to help you see and be seen. In 2026, lighting is a form of communication and hospitality. Let us look at a case study of the welcome sequence. Imagine a driver named James walking toward his 2026 QX80 in a dark parking lot after a late shift in downtown Seattle. As James gets within 10 feet of the vehicle with his key fob in his pocket, the car senses his presence. The first thing that happens is the illumination of the three-dimensional Infiniti emblem in the center of the grille. Then, like a ripple in a pond, the individual LED segments of the daytime running lights begin to pulse outward from the center. This is followed by the rear lighting element, which contains over 300 individual LEDs, performing a synchronized animation. Finally, the Infiniti light path activates, projecting a wing-like geometric pattern and the Infiniti word mark onto the ground beside the front doors. This isn't just for show. It serves a practical purpose by illuminating puddles or debris on the ground before James steps into the vehicle. The most striking change for many US drivers, however, is the move to flush-mounted door handles. Historically, door handles have been a source of significant aerodynamic drag and wind noise, especially on large SUVs. In the 2026 models, the handles sit completely flush with the bodywork, creating a clean, uninterrupted side profile that looks like a single piece of sculpted glass and metal. When the vehicle is unlocked, these handles automatically present themselves, extending outward to greet the driver. Once James enters the car and begins to drive, they retract back into the door. This contributes to a much lower drag coefficient, which is vital for the fuel efficiency of the twin-turbo V6 and the range of the upcoming all-electric models. From an engineering standpoint, these handles are designed with high-torque motors and a specialized ice-breaking function. If you live in a cold climate like Minneapolis or Buffalo and your car is covered in a layer of freezing rain, the system can exert enough force to punch through the ice and allow entry, a potential outcome that traditional flush handles often struggled with in early case studies. Aerodynamics play a silent but critical role across the entire 2026 lineup. We often think of large SUVs as bricks moving through the air, but the QX80 utilizes active grille shutters and air curtain vents to change its aerodynamic profile in real time. When the engine requires maximum cooling, perhaps while David is towing that boat through the heat of the Mojave Desert, the shutters open to allow maximum airflow. However, at highway speeds where cooling needs are lower, the shutters close to streamline the front end. Simultaneously, the air curtain vents at the lower corners of the front fascia direct air around the front wheels, reducing the turbulent wake that usually forms in the wheel wells. This attention to detail extends to the rear of the vehicle, where a subtle integrated spoiler and a tucked rear bumper work together to shed air cleanly, reducing the low-pressure pocket that pulls on the back of the car. These small engineering steps add up to a significantly quieter cabin, as wind noise is suppressed at the source rather than just being blocked by insulation. As we look toward the immediate future, the Vision QE and Vision QC concepts provide a roadmap for the 2027 and 2028 model years. The shadow blue paint seen on these concepts is a technological marvel in itself. It utilizes a deep blue base coat enriched with gold highlights that create a color-shifting effect. In the bright Florida sun, the car may look like a vibrant metallic blue, but as the sun sets, the gold highlights begin to glow, giving the surfaces a sense of liquid motion, even when the car is static. This paint technology is being prepped for production because US luxury consumers are increasingly looking for ways to differentiate their vehicles without resorting to aftermarket wraps or loud, neon colors. The design of the wheels is another area where Infiniti is merging art with electrical engineering. On the upcoming electric sedan, the wheels feature a geometric pattern inspired by the tightly wound copper coils of an electric motor. This is a subtle nod to the powertrain underneath, moving away from the traditional spoke designs of the internal combustion era. These wheels are also designed with aero inserts that reduce turbulence, further extending the battery range. We must also consider the proportions of these new models. The transition to the artistry in motion language has resulted in vehicles that look lower and wider than their predecessors. By pulling the A-pillars back and extending the hood line, designers have given the 2026 models a more athletic, rear-biased stance. This is particularly evident in the new Sport Grade, which adds gloss black accents, darkened chrome, and massive 22-inch wheels that fill the arches completely. For the US driver, this creates a commanding presence on the road that feels modern rather than dated. But a beautiful exterior is only one half of the equation for a luxury flagship. The real question for many American drivers is how this vehicle handles the diverse and often decaying infrastructure of our national highway system. A car can look like a piece of art, but if it rides like a heavy truck over the potholes of Manhattan, or the expansion joints of the 405 in Los Angeles, the luxury experience falls apart. This leads us to the mechanical heart of the 2026 ride quality. How does Infiniti manage to make a three-row SUV feel as composed as a sport sedan, while still offering the ground clearance for off-road adventures? The secret lies in the new electronic air suspension and the dynamic digital suspension system, which work together to defy the laws of physics. In the next part of our masterclass, we are going to dive deep into the chassis engineering. We will look at how the car automatically lowers itself by nearly 3 inches to help passengers get in and out, and how it can raise itself for rugged terrain at the touch of a button. We will also analyze the specific damping rates that allow this vehicle to remain flat during high-speed cornering. Is the new air suspension a game-changer for reliability, or just another complex system to maintain? We are going to break down the data and the case studies of long-term air suspension performance in the US market. To understand the true mechanical revolution of the 2026 Infiniti lineup, we have to look past the leather and the screens and focus on the air between the chassis and the pavement. For decades, luxury SUVs in the United States faced a binary choice. You could have a soft, cloud-like ride that felt disconnected and boat-like in the corners, or you could have a stiff, sporty suspension that transmitted every pothole in Detroit directly to your spine. Infiniti's answer in 2026 is the electronic air suspension combined with dynamic digital suspension. This is a closed-loop system that uses a dedicated air compressor and 4 independent air springs to constantly adjust the vehicle's height and firmness based on real-time data from a suite of sensors. Imagine a driver named Robert living in the Northeast. It is early 2026, and the winter thaw has left the roads of Pennsylvania riddled with deep potholes and frost heaves. In a traditional SUV with steel springs, Robert would be constantly bracing for the physical impact of these road defects. With the dynamic digital suspension, the vehicle's onboard computer is monitoring road conditions hundreds of times per second. By analyzing vertical wheel movement and body roll, the system can adjust the damping force of each individual shock absorber almost instantaneously. If the front left wheel is about to hit a sharp compression, the system can soften the damping in that specific corner to soak up the energy, then immediately firm it back up to maintain body control. This results in a potential outcome where the vehicle remains level and composed, regardless of the chaos happening at the tire level. Historical trends in the US luxury market show that air suspension was once a liability, often associated with high repair costs and leaks after 5 or 6 years of ownership. However, case studies of modern air suspension engineering indicate that the 2026 systems have moved toward more robust, sealed designs with improved rubber compounds that are more resistant to the salt and grime found on American winter roads. Infiniti has also integrated a smart logic system that manages the vehicle's ride height for efficiency and accessibility. When Robert approaches his vehicle, the QX80 can automatically lower itself by 2.8 inches from its standard height. This easy entry and exit mode is a practical application of technology that makes a massive difference for families with young children or elderly passengers. It transforms a high-riding flagship into a vehicle that is as easy to enter as a standard sedan. But the system doesn't just go down. When Robert takes his family on a weekend trip to a remote cabin in the Appalachian Mountains, he can select the off-road mode. This raises the vehicle by an additional 2.4 inches, providing significant ground clearance to navigate over rocks, ruts, or deep snow. Once he returns to the highway and hits cruising speeds, the car automatically lowers itself below the standard ride height to improve its aerodynamic profile and lower its center of gravity. This speed-sensitive lowering reduces the drag coefficient and can lead to a measurable increase in highway fuel economy, a critical factor for the U.S. driver who spends hours at 75 miles per hour on the interstate. Step by step, let's look at the physics of a high-speed lane change on the I-95. A vehicle of this size naturally wants to lean or roll. When turning, this roll shifts the weight to the outside tires, reducing grip and making the driver feel less confident. The 2026 dynamic digital suspension counters this by increasing the damping stiffness on the outside of the turn, while keeping the inside supple. This active roll control allows the vehicle to corner with a level of flatness that contradicts its physical mass. For a driver like Robert, this translates to a sense of precision and safety. He isn't fighting the vehicle's weight. The vehicle is using its digital brain to manage that weight for him. Furthermore, we must discuss the integration of the vehicle's drive modes: comfort, sport, economy, snow, and tow. Each of these modes doesn't just change the throttle response or the steering weight. They fundamentally remap the air suspension and the digital dampers. In sport mode, the air springs maintain a lower, firmer baseline to sharpen handling. In tow mode, the rear air springs are pressurized to compensate for the tongue weight of a trailer, ensuring the vehicle remains perfectly level even when hauling 8,000 pounds. This prevents the squatting effect that often makes a towing vehicle's steering feel light and vague. By maintaining a level chassis, the 2026 Infiniti ensures that the front tires keep a consistent contact patch with the road, providing the traction needed for safe steering and braking while under load. From a technical standpoint, the air suspension also works in tandem with the new electric power steering system. This isn't just a motor assisting the steering rack. It is a variable ratio system that can change how much the wheels turn relative to the steering wheel input. At low speeds in a crowded grocery store parking lot, the steering becomes very light and requires fewer turns to reach full lock. As the speed increases, the ratio tightens, and the weight increases, providing the high-speed stability that American drivers demand on long-distance stretches. This synergy between the air suspension, the dampers, and the steering creates a cohesive driving dynamic that Infiniti calls seamless luxury. We also need to consider the impact of wheel size on ride quality. The 2026 QX80 offers massive 22-inch wheels as standard on higher trims. Historically, larger wheels meant thinner tire sidewalls and a harsher ride. However, because the dynamic digital suspension is specifically calibrated for the unsprung weight of these larger wheels, Infiniti has been able to maintain a plush ride quality without sacrificing the aggressive aesthetic that US buyers prefer. Case studies of early 2026 prototypes showed that the digital dampers could filter out the high-frequency vibrations typically caused by large wheel and tire combinations, a feat that would be impossible with traditional passive suspension. Reliability remains a key concern for the long-term owner. In 2026, Infiniti's air suspension includes a self-diagnostic feature that can detect micro-leaks or compressor, where before it leads to a system failure. Owners receive notifications via the Infiniti InTouch app, allowing for preventative maintenance. This data-driven approach to vehicle health is a significant shift from the reactive maintenance models of the past. It provides a potential outcome where the second and third owners of these vehicles can enjoy the benefits of air suspension without the historical fear of catastrophic failure. As we have seen, the 2026 chassis is a marvel of electronic integration, turning a heavy SUV into a sophisticated, adaptable machine. But all of this hardware and software requires a massive amount of electrical power and a new way of thinking about the grid within the car. This brings us to a topic that most reviewers ignore, but is vital for the modern US driver: the 48-volt electrical architecture and the shift toward the electrified future. We have mastered the ride and the handling, but what happens when the engine stops and the battery takes over? In the next part of this deep dive, we are moving from the mechanical to the purely electric. We are going to analyze the Vision QE and the upcoming 2027 Infiniti EV sedan. We will break down the fast-charging reality in the US, the partnership with the North American charging standard, and how Infiniti plans to offer a dual-fuel lifestyle for those who aren't ready to give up gasoline entirely. Is the all-electric future a viable potential outcome for the average American family by 2028? The data might surprise you. This video shows how the electronic air suspension and dynamic digital suspension work together to provide a smooth and comfortable ride. Watch this 2026 Infiniti QX80 suspension technology overview turn complex engineering into a tangible driving experience. As we pivot from the mechanical roar of internal combustion to the silent surge of electrons, we find ourselves at the edge of Infiniti's most ambitious gamble: the total electrification of the brand's identity. For many U.S. drivers, the transition to an electric vehicle feels like a forced compromise, a trade-off between the luxury of convenience and the pressure of sustainability. Infiniti's 2026 strategy, however, is built on the idea that an EV should be a promotion, not a sacrifice. This begins with the Vision QE, a production-ready concept that previews the brand's first all-electric sedan. This isn't just a replacement for the discontinued Q50. It is a complete reimagining of the luxury sports sedan for the American interstates of 2027 and beyond. Imagine a driver named Michael, living in Southern California in 2026. Michael is a traditional luxury buyer who loves the performance of his old V6, but is tired of the fluctuating gas prices and the maintenance overhead of a high-strung engine. He is looking at the Vision QE production model as his potential next step. What Michael needs is not just a battery on wheels. He needs a vehicle that integrates into the existing U.S. charging infrastructure without the headaches that plagued early EV adopters. Step by step, let's look at the technical leap Infiniti is making to solve Michael's range anxiety. In late 2025, Infiniti officially announced the adoption of the North American Charging Standard, or NACS. This is a massive shift. It means that by the time the Vision QE hits the streets in 2026 and 2027, Michael won't be hunting for broken third-party chargers or carrying a trunk full of adapters. He will have native access to over 15,000 Tesla supercharger stalls across North America. Historical trends in the EV market show that charger reliability is the #1 reason luxury buyers hesitate to make the switch. By joining the NACS ecosystem, Infiniti is removing the single largest barrier to entry for the U.S. consumer. But the hardware is only half the story. The 2026 electric architecture is built on a high-output dual-motor all-wheel drive system. While Infiniti has been tight-lipped about the exact horsepower, case studies of similar platforms in the Nissan-Renault-Mitsubishi alliance suggest a potential outcome of over 450 horsepower and instantaneous torque that can propel a mid-size sedan from 0 to 60 in under 4 seconds. For Michael, this means the car doesn't just feel electric, it feels Infiniti. The power delivery is tuned to be linear and graceful, avoiding the neck-snapping, jerky acceleration that some rivals use to mask a lack of suspension refinement. The interior of the Vision QE production model will feature a 15-inch customizable infotainment display, but the real innovation is in the battery management software. Infiniti is utilizing a next-generation thermal management system that allows for consistent fast-charging speeds, even in extreme climates. Whether Michael is charging in the blistering heat of Palm Springs or during a winter trip to Big Bear, the vehicle's brain preconditions the battery cells to accept the maximum kilowatt intake the moment he plugs in. Data from early testing suggests that this can reduce a 10 to 80% charge cycle to just 22 minutes on a compatible fast charger. Now let's consider the Vision QC, the all-electric SUV counterpart. If the Vision QE is the scalpel, the QC is the broadsword. It is designed for the American family that needs the utility of a crossover, but wants to move away from the gasoline pump entirely. The QC utilizes the same artistry and motion design language, but with a more upright, commanding stance. For a family in a suburban environment like Plano, Texas, the potential outcome of switching to a QC is a vehicle that functions as a rolling power bank. Infiniti is exploring bidirectional charging technology for 2026, which would allow the QC to power a home during a blackout or feed energy back into the grid during peak demand. This transforms the car from a consumer of energy into a critical component of a household's resilience. However, Infiniti knows that the United States is a massive country with varying levels of EV readiness. This is why their Ambition 2030 plan doesn't just stop at full battery electrics. We are seeing a historical trend where bridging technologies are becoming the preferred choice for drivers in the Midwest and rural areas. This brings us to the e-Power technology, which is rumored to make its U.S. debut in a compact SUV replacement for the QX50 by 2028. Unlike a traditional hybrid, e-Power uses a gasoline engine solely as a generator to charge a small battery, which then powers high-torque electric motors that actually drive the wheels. The result? You get the 100% electric driving feel. Instant torque, silent operation, without ever needing to plug the car into a wall. You simply fill it with gas like a normal car. For a driver who doesn't have a garage for home charging, this is a game changer. Let's do a deep dive into the manufacturing side. Both the Vision QE sedan and the Vision QC SUV will be assembled right here in the United States, at the Nissan plant in Canton, Mississippi. This isn't just a win for domestic labor. It is a strategic move to ensure these vehicles qualify for federal tax incentives under current U.S. regulations. By localizing production and battery sourcing, Infiniti is positioning its premium EVs to be more price competitive with the likes of Lexus and Tesla. Case studies of luxury vehicle pricing show that a $7,500 tax credit can be the deciding factor for a buyer sitting on the fence between a high-end internal combustion engine and a new-age EV. But what about the soul of the car? Critics often argue that EVs are clinical and boring. Infiniti is countering this with a multisensory approach. They have developed a unique soundscape for their electric models that isn't just a fake engine noise piped through the speakers. It is a composed, ethereal hum that changes frequency based on speed and throttle position, designed to provide the driver with a sense of mechanical connection without the vibration of a piston engine. This, combined with the forest of light ambient lighting we discussed earlier, creates a cabin environment that feels like a sanctuary rather than a computer lab. As we look at this electrified horizon, one question remains. Can Infiniti really unseat the established EV titans? They are coming to the party later than some, but they are coming with a more refined, driver-first philosophy and a charging partnership that solves the biggest headache in the industry. But there is one more model we haven't discussed. A model that is a bridge for the enthusiast who isn't ready for a battery, but wants the absolute peak of Japanese engineering. We've seen the future of the sedan and the SUV, but what about the crossover coupe that is designed to bring back the spirit of the legendary Infiniti FX? It's called the QX65, and it is the missing link in the 2026 lineup. In the next part of this masterclass, we are going to strip back the skin of the QX65. We will look at why it's being called a style-first vehicle, and how it plans to steal market share from the BMW X6 and the Mercedes GLE Coupe. Are you ready to see the return of the performance crossover? The shift from the massive three-row utility of the QX80 to the sleek, aggressive silhouette of the upcoming 2027 Infiniti QX65 represents the brand's return to its most successful roots. For a specific generation of US drivers, the Infiniti brand wasn't defined by family haulers, but by a vehicle that the automotive press famously dubbed the Bionic Cheetah, the Infiniti FX. The original FX35 and FX50 were anomalies in the early 2000s. They were SUVs that drove like sports sedans and looked like nothing else on the road. As we move into the summer of 2026, the QX65 is stepping into that exact vacuum, positioned as a mid-size crossover coupe that prioritizes style and driver engagement over raw cargo volume. Imagine a driver named Powell living in Seattle in 2026. Powell owned an FX35 back in 2008 and has spent the last decade searching for a replacement that captured that same disruptive energy. He looked at the German alternatives, but found them either too clinical or prohibitively expensive to maintain once the warranty expired. When Powell sees the 2027 QX65 for the first time, he recognizes the long hood, short deck proportions that defined his old FX. This is the artistry in motion philosophy at its most athletic. The roofline arcs backward in a continuous, unbroken curve, terminating in a sharp rear spoiler that isn't just an aesthetic add-on, but a functional aerodynamic element designed to reduce lift at highway speeds. Technically, the QX65 is built on the same heavily refined chassis as the QX60, but the tuning is worlds apart. While the QX60 is calibrated for the soft, isolated ride required for a 7-passenger family vehicle, the QX65 utilizes a shorter wheelbase effect through its aggressive suspension geometry and wider track. Step by step, let's look at the powertrain data. Under the hood, the QX65 is expected to launch with a refined version of the 3.5-liter V6, producing 295 horsepower and 270 pound-feet of torque. Historical trends in this segment show that while 4-cylinder turbos are becoming the norm for efficiency, the US luxury buyer still prefers the linear power delivery and refined sound of a 6-cylinder engine. Infiniti is doubling down on this, pairing the V6 with a fast-shifting 9-speed automatic transmission that has been recalibrated for the QX65 to provide more aggressive downshifts when Powell enters sport mode. The competitive landscape for the QX65 is fierce, dominated by the BMW X6 and the Mercedes-Benz GLE Coupe. Case studies of these vehicles show two very different approaches to the crossover coupe segment. The BMW X6 is the performance benchmark, with a stiff, communicative chassis that excels on a canyon road, but can feel punishing on the neglected pavement of a city like Seattle. The Mercedes GLE Coupe, on the other hand, leans into ultra-luxury and isolation, often feeling floaty and disconnected. The potential outcome for the QX65 is to occupy the high-value middle ground. It offers the visual drama of the BMW and the material quality of the Mercedes, but at a price point that is projected to sit significantly lower than the $90,000 starting MSRP of the German Elite. Inside the cabin, the QX65 moves away from the 3-row layout to focus entirely on the 2-row 5-passenger experience. This allows for a massive increase in second-row legroom, creating a VIP lounge environment. Powell's passengers in the back aren't cramped under the sloping roofline because Infiniti engineers utilized a specialized dropped seat pan design, preserving headroom without sacrificing the exterior's fastback aesthetic. The materials inside follow the kabuki philosophy of the extraordinary. We are talking about semi-aniline leather with unique bronze piping and open-pore wood trim that features a textured, windswept finish. One of the most significant technical features in the QX65 is the intelligent all-wheel drive system with active brake limited slip. In a city like Seattle, where rain-slicked hills are a daily reality, this system can move up to 50% of the engine's power to the rear wheels the moment it detects a loss of traction. But it goes further. If one wheel begins to spin on a patch of ice, the system can apply the brake to that specific wheel, effectively pushing the torque to the wheels with the most grip. This is a level of mechanical intelligence that provides Powell with a sense of planted confidence, reminiscent of the rear-biased AWD systems found in high-end sports cars. Furthermore, the QX65 serves as a technology showcase for Infiniti's new in-car camera system. This isn't just for security. It allows Powell to capture high-definition photos or videos of his journey through the scenic Pacific Northwest without ever reaching for his phone. Integrated into the rearview mirror housing, the camera can also be accessed via a smartphone app, allowing Powell to check on the interior of his car remotely. A practical feature for the 2026 driver concerned about security or simply making sure they didn't leave a laptop bag in the back seat. Historical trends suggest that the crossover coupe segment is growing faster than standard SUVs among younger, affluent buyers who don't need a third row but want a vehicle that reflects their personal brand. The QX65 isn't trying to be everything to everyone. It is a niche vehicle designed for the individualist. It sacrifices a small amount of vertical cargo height for a massive increase in road presence. For Powell, the trade-off is worth it. He isn't hauling plywood from a hardware store. He is hauling his golf clubs to the club or his luggage to a weekend resort, and he wants to look good doing it. The 2027 QX65 also introduces a new satin twilight paint finish that utilizes a multi-layer pigment technology. In the flat gray light of a cloudy Seattle afternoon, the car appears to be a deep shimmering charcoal. But as the sun breaks through, the gold and violet undertones in the paint begin to pop, highlighting the muscular haunches over the 22-inch wheels. This focus on visual theater is what separates Infiniti from the more conservative designs of Lexus or Acura in 2026. As we analyze the QX65, we begin to see a pattern in Infiniti's 2026 to 2027 roadmap. It is a brand that is no longer trying to beat the Germans at their own game of raw Nürburgring lap times. Instead, they are focusing on the total human experience. They are building cars that are fast enough to be fun, but more importantly, they are building cars that are beautiful to look at and effortless to live with. This brings us to a fundamental shift in how Infiniti is treating the actual process of owning one of these vehicles. A great car is nothing without a great ownership experience, and in 2026, Infiniti is launching a program that aims to remove the dealership from the luxury equation entirely. We have seen the power, the design, and the electric future, but the final pillar of this masterclass is the most personal one. It involves a service called Valet Pickup and Delivery, and a new AI-driven concierge that knows your maintenance needs before you do. How does Infiniti plan to treat you like a VIP from the moment you sign the papers to the moment you trade the car in 5 years later? The data on customer satisfaction is about to change forever. This video provides an excellent visual overview of the QX65's design inspiration and its connection to the FX legacy. Watch this 2027 Infiniti QX65 design deep dive to see how the artistry in motion philosophy translates from a concept sketch to a production reality on American roads. The shift in the 2026 luxury market is moving away from the purely mechanical and toward the experiential, and Infiniti is responding with a service infrastructure that aims to redefine the relationship between a driver and their dealership. Historically, the most significant pain point for U.S. luxury owners has not been the vehicle itself, but the time-consuming and often frustrating process of maintenance and service. To address this, Infiniti is expanding its Infiniti Client Experience, a suite of digitized and physical services designed to treat the owner's time as the ultimate luxury. This is a strategic move to compete with the high-touch models seen in brands like Genesis and the streamlined, digital-first approach of Tesla. Imagine a driver named Elena living in the suburbs of Charlotte, North Carolina, in late 2026. Elena is a busy professional with a demanding schedule and 2 children. In the past, a simple oil change or a software update meant Elena had to sacrifice half a day, driving to the dealership, waiting in a lounge, or arranging for a loaner car that might not meet her needs. With the 2026 Infiniti Valet pickup and delivery service, the process is fundamentally transformed. When Elena's QX80 detects it is nearing a service interval, or if a minor diagnostic issue is identified by the onboard AI, Elena receives a notification on her smartphone. With a single tap in the Infiniti InTouch app, she schedules a pickup. A valet arrives at her home or office, drops off a comparable Infiniti loaner vehicle, and takes her car to the service center. Once the work is completed, whether it is a mechanical repair or a complex calibration of the ProPilot Assist 2.1 sensors, the car is returned to her, washed and ready for the road. This is not just a perk for high-end trims. Infiniti is pushing to make this the standard expectation for the brand in the United States. Case studies of luxury consumer behavior show that convenience-based loyalty is one of the strongest drivers of brand retention. By removing the physical trip to the dealership, Infiniti is effectively giving hours of life back to their clients. This is a high-stakes play because the logistics of managing a national valet fleet are immense, but the potential outcome is a level of customer satisfaction that creates a halo effect across the entire lineup. Furthermore, we must look at the digital side of this ownership experience. The 2026 models are equipped with advanced over-the-air update capabilities. In the early days of automotive software, a bug in the infotainment system or a tweak to the transmission mapping required a physical visit to a service bay. Now, much like a smartphone, the vehicle can download and install updates while it sits in the owner's driveway at night. Step by step, the car checks for available firmware, verifies the integrity of the download, and executes the update during low-usage hours. This ensures that a driver like Elena is always driving the most refined version of her vehicle. We have seen historical trends where Tesla used this to add range or improve braking distances. Infiniti is now applying this same logic to refine everything from the response of the monolith display to the sensitivity of the biometric cooling sensors. Maintenance in 2026 is also becoming predictive rather than reactive. By using a constant stream of anonymized data from thousands of vehicles on U.S. roads, Infiniti's central servers can identify patterns of where that might be specific to certain climates or driving styles. If the data shows that vehicles in high-humidity areas like Charlotte are seeing a specific wear pattern on a cooling fan, the system can proactively notify Elena to have it checked before it ever fails. This shift to predictive maintenance is designed to maximize the long-term reliability of the new twin-turbocharged engines and complex air suspension systems we discussed earlier. It is about preventing the breakdown before it happens, which is the hallmark of a true premium experience. Let's talk about the Infiniti Research and Development Deep Dive into U.S. consumer preferences. Data suggests that American drivers are increasingly interested in subscription-based features, but only if they provide clear value. In response, Infiniti is testing a feature-on-demand model. Imagine if Elena only needs the full suite of ProPilot 2.1 hands-off driving for a once-a-year road trip to Florida. Instead of paying for the high-end hardware and software up front in the sticker price, she could potentially activate the advanced autonomous features for a single month. This allows the vehicle to be more affordable at the point of sale, while giving the owner the flexibility to scale their car's capabilities as their needs change. While some critics argue against software-locked hardware, the historical trend in the tech industry suggests that consumers value the lower entry price and the ability to customize their experience over time. Connectivity is another major pillar. The 2026 Infiniti lineup features an integrated Wi-Fi hotspot with 5G capability. This isn't just for the kids to watch movies in the back. It is the backbone of the office on wheels concept. For a professional like Elena, the car becomes a secure, high-speed node in her digital life. The Google built-in system synchronizes with her professional calendar, automatically pulling the address of her next meeting and calculating the best route based on real-time traffic. If she is running 5 minutes late, she can ask Google Assistant to send a voice-to-text message to her meeting participants, all without taking her eyes off the road. We also have to consider the second life of these vehicles. As part of their sustainability strategy in 2026, Infiniti is launching a certified pre-owned 2.0 program. Because these cars are now so software-dependent, the brand is offering guaranteed software support and hardware refresh packages for second and third owners. This is a critical move to protect the resale value of the vehicles. In the past, a 5-year-old luxury car felt old because the tech was dated. By ensuring that the software remains compatible with the latest apps, and that the battery health in EVs is monitored and certified, Infiniti is aiming to keep their vehicles desirable on the used market. This supports the historical trends that show brands with strong residual values attract more lease customers, who are the lifeblood of the luxury segment. The physical environment of the dealership is also changing. For the times when an owner does want to visit, Infiniti is rolling out discovery centers in major U.S. cities. These are not traditional car lots with rows of white vehicles under fluorescent lights. Instead, they are gallery-like spaces designed to showcase the artistry in motion philosophy. They feature materials labs where you can feel the different leather grades and wood trims, and immersive VR stations where you can drive a Vision QE sedan before it even arrives at the port. It is a move toward a boutique experience that mirrors high-end fashion or watch brands. As we look at the total ecosystem, from the valet who picks up the car to the AI that predicts a part failure, it becomes clear that Infiniti is no longer just an automotive manufacturer. They are becoming a luxury service provider. The vehicle is the hardware, but the experience is the product. This leads us to the final, most important question for any US driver looking at the 2026 market. How does it all come together when you actually put your money down? We have covered the power of the new engines, the beauty of the design, the leap into electrification, and the revolution in service. But there is one final piece of the puzzle. What are the specific trim levels, the projected price brackets for the US market, and the expert recommendation on which model provides the best balance of technology and value? In the final part of this masterclass, we are going to do a buyer's blueprint. We will look at the QX80, QX60, QX65, and the upcoming EVs side by side. We will break down the sweet spot in the lineup and give you the final verdict on whether Infiniti's bold 2026 pivot is enough to reclaim the throne. The transition from observing the brand's evolution to actually placing a vehicle in your driveway requires a strategic understanding of the 2026 and 2027 trim hierarchies. For the United States market, Infiniti has simplified its trim structures across the board to reduce the decision fatigue that often plagues luxury buyers. Whether you are looking at the flagship QX80, the family-oriented QX60, or the enthusiast-leaning QX65, the brand generally follows 4 distinct pillars: Pure, Luxe, Sensory, and the ultra-premium Autograph. Each of these steps represents a significant jump in both technological integration and material quality, and identifying the sweet spot depends entirely on your specific use case. Let us start with the 2026 QX80, the heavy hitter of the lineup. If you are a driver named Marcus living in a city like Dallas, you are likely looking for a vehicle that can handle both the high-status demands of a corporate environment and the practical needs of hauling a large family to a weekend retreat in East Texas. For Marcus, the Pure trim offers the foundational 3.5-liter twin-turbo V6 and the essential ProPilot Assist features, but it lacks the air suspension that we've identified as a core component of the new Infiniti experience. Historical trends in the full-size SUV segment suggest that vehicles without adjustable suspension tend to see higher depreciation because they lack the magic carpet ride quality that second-hand luxury buyers demand. Therefore, for Marcus, the sweet spot is the Sensory trim. This is the level where the electronic air suspension and dynamic digital suspension become standard equipment. It also introduces the 14-speaker Klipsch audio system and the biometric cooling sensors that we analyzed earlier. While the Autograph trim adds even more opulence, like the open-pore ashwood with metal inlays and the massage second-row captain's chairs, the Sensory trim provides about 90% of the technological wow factor at a price point that is projected to sit in the mid-$90,000 range, whereas the Autograph can easily crest $110,000. In a high-interest economic environment like 2026, The potential outcome of choosing the sensory trim is a vehicle that feels cutting edge without the diminishing returns of the absolute top-tier price tag. Now, consider a different scenario with a driver named Chloe in Denver. Chloe doesn't need a massive 3-row behemoth. She wants a refined, all-weather capable crossover that fits into her active lifestyle without feeling like a mom car. For Chloe, the 2027 QX65 is the primary target. Because the QX65 is positioned as a style-first vehicle, Infiniti has eliminated the lower-tier pure trim for this model. It starts at the luxe level, ensuring that every QX65 on the road maintains a certain baseline of premium presence, including 20-inch wheels and the panoramic moonroof. However, if Chloe wants the artistry and motion vision to truly come to life, she should look at the sensory grade. This adds the head-up display and the advanced 180-degree front wide-view camera system. In a city like Denver, where mountain passes and unpredictable weather are common, having that extra visual data projected onto the windshield is a massive safety integration. Step by step, let's look at the buyer's blueprint for the upcoming electric transition. If you are looking at the Vision QE production sedan arriving in late 2026 as a 2027 model, the decision-making process shifts from engine specs to battery range and charging speed. For an early adopter named Julian in Miami, the primary concern is whether the base battery pack will suffice for his daily commute, or if he needs the long-range dual-motor setup. Historical trends with luxury EVs show that the highest-performing trims often hold their value better, because they include the most advanced thermal management systems. For Julian, the potential outcome of opting for the dual-motor sensory EV is not just more speed, but a more robust charging curve that will stay relevant as U.S. charging infrastructure continues to evolve throughout the late 2020s. Let's break down the projected pricing data for the U.S. market in 2026. While final MSRPs are subject to change based on logistics and material costs, the QX60 remains the entry point into the premium 3-row space, starting in the high $50,000 range. The new QX65 is expected to command a premium for its style, likely starting in the mid-$60,000 bracket. The QX80, as the brand's flagship, has moved upmarket to compete directly with the Cadillac Escalade and Lincoln Navigator, with a starting point in the low $80,000 range and scaling rapidly. Finally, the Vision QE electric sedan is aimed squarely at the mid-$70,000 segment, positioned to undercut the high-end European electric sedans while offering more standard luxury than a base Tesla Model S. We must also address the total cost of ownership for the U.S. driver. Infiniti's decision to move to the twin-turbo V6 is not just about power, it is about reducing the maintenance complexity associated with the old high-displacement V8's. Case studies of turbocharged engines in the Nissan Infiniti family show that with proper synthetic oil changes and cooling system maintenance, these engines can easily surpass the 100,000-mile mark without major failures. Furthermore, by utilizing the 9-speed automatic instead of a CVT, Infiniti has addressed a long-standing criticism regarding transmission longevity. For a buyer looking to keep their vehicle for 6 to 8 years, this mechanical pivot is a significant indicator of long-term value. What about the expert recommendation? If you are currently sitting in a dealership or browsing online, the most important question to ask is, does this vehicle align with my 5-year plan? If you are in a state with rapidly expanding EV infrastructure like California, New York, or Florida, waiting for the Vision QE or QC might be the most forward-thinking move. However, if you are in a region where long-distance towing and rural driving are the norm, the 2026 QX80 is arguably the most complete luxury SUV Infiniti has ever built. It finally has the interior to match its massive exterior presence, and the tech stack is no longer playing catch-up. It is leading in areas like biometric cooling and invisible hood visibility. Infiniti's 2026 pivot is a high-stakes masterclass in brand reinvention. They have successfully moved away from being the value alternative and have leaned into their Japanese heritage to create something that feels soulful, artistic, and technologically superior. They aren't trying to out-German the Germans, they are trying to out-hospitable the world. By focusing on the total human experience, from the way the lights greet you to the way the car breathes for its passengers, they have created a compelling reason for U.S. drivers to take a second look at the brand. But the automotive world never stands still. As Infiniti reclaims its throne, the competition is already planning their next moves. In our next deep dive, we are going to look at the Lexus response, how the titans of Toyota are planning to counter Infiniti's new V6 power and artistry in motion design. We will also look at the German counterattack, and whether the next generation of BMW and Mercedes SUVs can match the value-to-luxury ratio that Infiniti has just established. The road ahead for 2027 is filled with more horsepower, more screens, and more electrification than we ever thought possible. You are now equipped with the deep dive data to make an informed decision in this rapidly changing landscape. Whether you choose the rumble of the twin-turbo or the silent surge of the Vision QE, you are stepping into a new era of Japanese luxury.